next episode in working with digital video cameras. In this episode, we're going to focus on some specific tips on how to use our Canon ZR960 video camera. Specifically, I want to talk about how to use your digital zoom, as well as some manual focus options, also tips on how to use the playback and how to export your video so we can do video editing. All right, let's get started. Now let's take a look at some more camera controls. So here we are with our camera. We've got a little scene set up. On the side here, we are in camera mode. We are also in the P mode at the top. Notice up here it says easy and P. And P mode is the professional mode. Easy has a lot of things set up for you and you don't have much control. So always make sure that that is in the P mode to do the following things. So first we'll get our shot kind of set up here for our demonstration purposes. Now the first thing I want to do is play around with the zoom in, zoom out. So here where my finger is tapping is the zoom in, zoom out controls. So at the top here you will notice a W and a T. The W stands for wide angle, so you get a wide shot. So if I move this to the left, it's going to zoom all the way out. The T stands for telephoto, which is zooming in. So I can get really close to my subject. So if I move it to the right, it will zoom in, telephoto. So typically you want to have your camera in the W, wide angle shot. So that's zoomed all the way out. That gives us the cleanest, most crisp shot that we can get. So typically if you want to get close to your subject, you just put the camera close to the subject. A lot of people are really far away and then try to zoom in, and that does not look as good. In fact, the image quality gets pretty poor the more you zoom in. So keep that in mind. The less you can zoom, typically, the better. Now, when you do want to zoom, you typically zoom for a purpose. So it might be a dramatic purpose, that slow zoom to catch that tear dripping down the person's face. Or maybe it's a really fast zoom in, zoom out to create some kind of action or excitement. So with this camera, it is touch sensitive. So if I have my subject, let's see if we can get a better view, and I have my hand on my zoom in, zoom out, if I very slowly push this to the side, just a slight amount of pressure, I can do a slow zoom. Notice there's a little bit of blurriness, which we'll talk about in a second. Now, if I move it to the left, it will do a slow zoom out. But maybe I want to do a really intense, fast zoom to kind of show excitement somehow. Maybe it's an action scene. Then I just go whoosh, all the way. So the first thing I want you to notice is over here on the side, we have a little icon in the top corner which tells us if our camera stopped, which is right now the square, or recording. So the red dot, hopefully you guys know, means you're recording. And once you're recording, you will see our little time counter start. Below that shows us how much time is left on our tape. Right now I have 60 minutes left on my tape. And then below that is how much battery I have left. So while I'm in this screen, I'm going to be using these buttons on the side, primarily this top one. And notice this kind of has a 4-arrow direction. So if I just push this in, it gives me this submenu here. And notice the submenu says EXP at the top and focus at the bottom. So this allows us to manually control the exposure at the top, which is light, and focus at the bottom. So using my little button here, I'm going to push it up to get to the exposure setting. Now exposure is how much light is getting into our lens. So this is a way to maybe brighten up a dark scene or to make a really bright scene a little bit darker. So now that I'm in the exposure setting, I can either move this to the right or to the left to add light. Notice what that does. Or the other direction to take light out. So I can get really extreme with this as well. So if I want to make it really dark, I can do that. So this is a really cool way to add some different ambiance to your scene, or maybe just to make it look good. Sometimes you can only shoot in one particular setting and it's just too bright or too dark. So this is a way to fix that. So that's the exposure setting. Now I'm going to push this down and it takes me back to the main menu and down again to the focus. And focus is a way to allow us to manually focus. The camera itself will do some focusing, but this allows us, if our screen for whatever reason is blurry, I can push this in one direction or the other to get it back into focus. And sometimes these cameras don't know what to focus on. If you have a really interesting background and then things going on in front of that, sometimes it wants to focus on the background and not on your characters. So you may have to go into this mode in order to get the right focus. Because yeah, it's great if your background looks good, but if you can't see your actors, then the shot, well, it just doesn't work. So that's one little tip to add in light, take light away, or focus your camera. Here on the side, we are in our camera mode. I'm going to push this up and put us into our playback mode. So playback mode allows us to rewind and watch our footage. So now here we are in our playback mode screen. So again, let's just take a closer look at our playback mode screen. Now again, you're going to be using this side control here, and this tells us if we go up, that will play or pause, down is stop, right is fast forward, and left is rewind. So if I hit up, it's going to play it. Now if all you see is a blue screen, that means there's nothing on that part of the tape, so be aware of that. And if I hold the rewind button, it will rewind and I can watch the action take place. Obviously this is not very exciting, playing around with lighting. And then after I'm done watching and making sure it looks good, I always want to fast forward to the end of the footage so I don't accidentally record over my work. Because until you download your footage onto your computer, all you have is what's on this tape. So you want to make sure you get to the end of the footage, then you can stop it, then you can put it back into your record mode, and then you can carry on with your next shot. The next step is how to download our footage. Downloading footage basically means how to get the video that we've filmed from our camera onto our computer so we can start to edit. So what we need to get this working is a FireWire cord. So since we're working with these specific computers, we need a FireWire cord, and these are the two ends. One is big, this is a FireWire, and this one allows us to hook up to the camera. So in order to hook these up, the first step is we need to open up the door to our camera, and you will notice on the inside of the door here there's a bunch of plugs. We can plug in a microphone, can plug in some other stuff, but at the very top there's kind of a wider square-shaped plug, and at the top of that it says the letters DV, digital video. So remember, that's the cassette tapes we're working with, they're digital video cassette tapes. So on my FireWire cord here, you'll notice one side is small, one side is a little bit bigger, so that small side is the part that plugs right in here. So we're going to plug that in like that, and now we can set that down. And now this bigger side is going to go into our computer, and you'll actually see a matching icon on the side of your computer here, and you can just plug that straight in. And now on our camera we need to make sure that we are in the play mode. So once the camera's in the play mode, you want to rewind your footage to the very beginning, open up iMovie or whatever editing software we might be using, and then it will let you import the video. Once you've done that, everything that you've filmed on here on that cassette tape will be in the computer. But you'll always have a backup on that cassette tape as long as you don't record over it. So that's how we import video to begin our video editing. I hope this week's episode was informative for you. You've learned a few things. Tune into our next episode where we'll be focusing on some external equipment that we can use with our video cameras, including tripods, dollies, and video props. See you next time.